You're listening to Purpose and Progress Pod with Ugo, a space where real stories meet growth and purpose. Let's journey into purpose together. Hey, hello, Steve. Good evening, and welcome to Purpose and Progress Pod with Ugo, Esther, whichever one. But yeah, you're welcome to my podcast. I'm so glad to have you here. How you doing? And how was your day?
I'm good, wonderful, tired, but I'm all right.
Yeah, I get that.
And it's actually an honor to be on your podcast.
Thank you. So I'm just going to give a little bit of background about Purpose and Progress Pod, the idea behind it before we dive into our discussion. So Purpose and Progress Podcast is a podcast that is targeted at young people, and it's because there is, a need to reach out to young people who are in their process or are in their journey, and then they don't really understand what's going on. And then we see that a lot of young people these days, they look at results more than they look at the process to get there. So they glorify and celebrate results a lot, but then most people are not ready to put in the work or do what they need to do, follow the process through and through. They just want fast results, fast money, and then it's very, very rampant in our generation. So this is like a voice speaking to young people and telling them that everything takes time. There is a process, so you have to progress into your purpose. And then if you're feeling like purpose is some sort of big thing that is one thing that will just land on you, it's a progressive journey. It's not something that will just land on your lap. If you find it early in life, then that is awesome. Some people find it later in life. Some people find it early in life. But then whichever one is very, very important to stay on your course and not enter into somebody else's path. So staying on your course. And then this is why I'm bringing young people to come share their story, come share their process. Actually, people who have seen, I've watched them over time, and then I've seen that they are doing well in their maybe career or in their faith or something, and then I just want them to share their experiences with those who are just coming up, or who may be where you were probably 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and then they just want to understand, what do I do at this season of my own life where I am right now? Or maybe somebody who is where you are right now, and then they don't even think like they've made so much progress, but then with this they get encouraged to see that even though I've waited for a bit, I still see that there's something that has occurred in my life that is really significant. So yeah, that's just what it's about. So welcome once again. I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you so much for accepting my invite to be here. I'm really honored.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, so, I'm also very honored.
Okay. That's good. Thank you
very much.
Yeah, so I'm just going to read out a brief, bio about Steven, and then, you would also get to introduce yourself in a few minutes before we now get into the conversation. All right. So Steven Andrew, as he's known, is a sales and business development expert with a passion for helping, big, small businesses scale and deliver world-class customer experiences. He's also the CEO and the founder of the King's Conglomerate Outsource. I hope I pronounced that well. Founder of King's Conglomerate Outsource. He leads a firm dedicated to providing top-tier outsourcing solutions that drive revenue and customer satisfaction. He has 6 years of experience spanning sales, business development, and customer relations, both in Nigeria and internationally. Steven has built a reputation for himself, closing deals, optimizing business performance, and forging strong client relationships. His expertise and strategic insights make him a sought-after consultant and also a speaker, empowering businesses, winning sales and strategies and growth. One other thing I know about Steven is the fact that he's very intentional about young people and their growth, and I've seen him, do that, like raise young people, speak to young people, mentor them, and also be a source of inspiration to them. So which is why, aside from, all these wonderful things that he has done for the world, is why Steven is here to come speak to young people. I know he's a really great influence in our generation, especially for young men who are trying to, find their path, and just understand themselves. So yeah, welcome, Steve. It's so nice to have you here. So now I've introduced
you very much.
you.
At some point, I was going to ask if At some point, I was going to ask if you were still talking about me.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. So yeah, Steve, tell us a little bit about yourself outside of all of this. So let's hear who is Steve Andrew.
Okay, okay. Well, you've basically said more than everything, and like I said, at some point, are we still on the same? Yes, wondering who else we're talking about.
Sure.
So yeah, well, I think I'm just that guy that likes to basically just help people. And it's very funny because from an earlier stage of my life, I discovered that I didn't have much to offer, but there was a passion to always share the little knowledge and the little things I had gotten, either from work experience or life experience. So there was that passion and that zeal to always want to share. And I kind of like discovered that early on. So it made me pursue knowledge. And it was more like the driving force for me, just always wanting to share, always wanting to help people. And that was something that was really huge for me. So basically, I'm just that kind of person who wants to always give back and just share the little we know and the little we've achieved to see how we can better help people. So I'm also huge about the middle ground of where faith and finance actually cross pathways. So I would think my purpose has been geared towards building that middle ground, making it larger and larger, and making younger people understand that it's not so difficult to have your faith in place and
Yeah.
have your finance in place. So
Mm,
I think that's basically one thing that has been my driving force and what I'm still building towards to ensure that that middle ground becomes larger and larger for everybody to see that you can have your faith in place and your finance in place. And I'm also huge about my faith and my belief. Those are things that's actually helped me get to where I am. And yeah, basically.
oh, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So let's just dive into it. What is purpose to you, Steven?
Okay, well, I think that's one interesting topic because a lot of people have given their fair share of what they think purpose is to them. But
Yeah.
for me, honestly, I'm going to be as honest as possible. You can't find purpose outside God. Well, I know the audience that your podcast has can be cut across different faiths,
Yeah.
but whatever God is to you, honestly, you can't find purpose outside of it. Whatever God is to you, and whoever you think God is to you, you honestly can't find purpose outside of Him, because I believe we're designed and created for distinct activities
Yeah.
and certain things that you can't really explain or find in another individual. So it's like we are wired for something. You'll discover that growing up you have different affinities for different things, and you unlike other people, you resonate with certain things differently. You are
Yeah.
more inclined towards certain things, and that's just how you're wired. And all of those things, if you pay close attention to it, you discover that it has something to do with the reason and purpose why we are here. And so, well, purpose for me is something you can't find outside God. And the earlier you find God, the earlier you understand your purpose. And what purpose has been for me, it's also in phases. There are certain phases of your life you're going to believe this is what God has called me to do. This is what I believe God has designed me for. And you keep progressing on that path, and you begin to have a broader perspective of what He wants you to do. So
Yeah.
purpose for me, like I said, and I have come to discover, is just ensuring that the middle ground of faith and finance becomes larger and larger. Having people understand that you don't have to trade one for the other. You don't have to be better in your faith and lose your finance. You don't have to pursue finance and lose your faith. There's actually a middle ground where these two can coexist in the right order of things. And basically that's purpose for me.
Wow, that's that's really profound. That's really a profound, definition of purpose, because I feel like it's all encompassing. And yeah, thank you for that. So I just want to ask you next, like, do you think you have found your purpose? And if you have found your purpose, how have you been able to, first of all, okay, let's do it like this. So if you have found your purpose, right, how did you find out that this is the thing that God wants me to do, or this is what my life's essence is about, and this is what I want to do? How did you find out? And then when you found out that this was your purpose, how have you navigated through it from when you found out up until now, like what you're currently doing right now?
Okay, so like I said, finding God first is the first step to finding your purpose. If we're going to actually list it out, what
Okay.
are the ways and the process you can actually arrive at purpose?
Yeah.
So purpose is a destination, and it's something we will all keep walking towards until our final breath. And so the first thing you need to do if you want to find purpose is to find God. Exactly, I would say whatever that is to you. So find God first. For me, I did that pretty much late in my life. I think I was already in my mid-20s when I found God. So, but growing up, I discovered that I had a lot of affinities for different things. I was just drawn towards certain things that I didn't really take note of or didn't really know how to go around them. So it was just oh, I like this, I like that, and I want to do this. I'm passionate about doing that, and all of those things. So those were how I felt before I found God. And when I found Him, it began to make sense. Like those next, I began to understand why I had certain affinity for certain things. I began to understand why I wanted to do certain things. I began to understand why I was passionate about teaching and passing down knowledge. So it just helps bring everything together. So that's the first major step you want to take if you want to find purpose. Find God, and in Him, He's just going to connect all the dots. He might not necessarily bring anything new into your consciousness, but better help you understand the different things that you have seen growing up, that you love, that you want to do, and just help you rearrange it in such a way that it begins to make more sense for you. So that's the first major step. And how I've been able to navigate through that part is when you find Him and you understand who He is, you begin to trust Him because you understand who He is. This is somebody outside time. This is somebody that through the Bible, you begin to understand why you should trust Him. And you've seen Him take people from nothing to something and has done it over and over again. So you begin to find reasons why you should trust Him. So the second thing is trusting Him. As you begin to trust Him, He begins to bring certain opportunities. It's not every opportunity, either job-wise and otherwise. It's not everything that comes to you that is helping you move closer towards purpose. So you will not be able to differentiate and make the right decisions and get on the right paths if you haven't found Him and if you don't learn to trust Him. So for me, I left school studying something I wasn't really interested in, and I left school with what we will call a bad result. So I lost hope in the fact that I could actually do something, just in where and how you end up. What you graduated with doesn't determine if you're going to succeed in out there, because I didn't have what we will call in our educational context a good result. So that was already something that was frustrating at that point when I left school. So, but I had to trust Him. And as soon as I began to trust Him, He began to open certain doors and He began to bring certain opportunities my way that at the point wasn't lucrative, wasn't what I wanted. But again, I trusted Him. And that's the importance of trust, because it doesn't look like where He wants to take you to, but if you trust Him, you're going to go ahead with it. So I went ahead with those jobs that wasn't really looking like the big picture I had in mind and where I wanted to be in the next 5 or 6 years. But because I trusted Him, I went ahead with those opportunities. And in those opportunities that didn't look like where I wanted to be in the next 5 or 6 years, I learned so many things that became very useful for me. In fact, that became the focal point of the skills I currently possess and has brought me to where I am currently. So, but if I had not found him, I would have probably have taken an alternative route and not be where I am today. So I had to find him first. Then secondly, I had to trust him. Then just trust him. And that was how the journey began. So yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that. So good. I like what how you started defining it and saying all that. But then I want you to share your story. Like, where did it start from and then where are you right now? Yes.
Okay. So well, I started out by working for a private football club in Kaduna State, and I was hired as the personal assistant to the owner of the club. Very funny story. Yeah. So usually on my birthdays, I'll just organize parties and have people come over and do the normal stuff. No offense. Yeah. I'm not saying you should, but that was what I was basically doing at that time. Yeah. And so I had found God. This was around 2019. And I was like, okay, I wanted this year to be different. And okay, God, I'm out of school. I'm done with my service. And since I'm not going to the way I used to do them, I want you to give me a job, which was so much of a big deal because, like I said, my result was whack. Okay, so I wasn't expecting anything on merits, so to speak. And 2 days before my birthday, somebody shows up at my gate and said, somebody's looking for you, came asking for you, but you were not around. So I just told the person I'm going to reach out to you and have you go speak to the person. So this is me reaching out to you. Can you please go and see this person they described? And I went ahead 2 days before my birthday and I met up with the person. And the person was like, are you a graduate? I said, yes. And at that point, I was shivering because I was expecting the person to ask me what I graduated with. But that never happened. That never happened because honestly, God knew if I had told the person what I graduated with, I'm not sure what he wanted to do for me, he would have done. So he didn't ask. So he just asked, okay, so are you currently doing anything? And I said, no. And he said, okay, fine. Are you going to work as my personal assistant? This is somebody that had prayed for a job and has been waiting for a job. And yes, I jumped at the offer. And I was like, sure, yes. And mind you, I was just waking up at the moment when I went to see this individual. So I was still wearing my bedroom slippers and just something soft that I woke up with. So he was like, okay, so if you're going to work for me, how much do you think I should pay you? So this was like 2019, like I said. And I told the person, okay, 10,000 is fine. And that 10,000, I said it out of fear. I was like, okay, that was like me saying something that I felt like was big or too big for me, so to speak, at that point. And he raised his head and looked at me and like 10,000 naira. I was like, yeah, 10,000 naira will be perfect for me. 10,000 naira for a month. I said, yes, it's fine. I said, okay, well, take this laptop, get into the car. I'm going to pay you 3 times what you've asked for. And I was speechless. In fact, I'm not sure I said thank you. I just got into the car speechless and we drove to the office, and that was how I started out that job. And a few months down the line, another opportunity came, and that is how I broke into sales from this opportunity I'm going to speak about. Okay. So somebody who was in my church at that time and had seen at that point how much I had transformed within that short period of time, talking about spiritually. And so we got talking, and he sort of like offered me a job to work as a sales rep for a company called Cadre. So that was like in 2020 for a company called Cadre, and that was how I broke into sales. And it was door-to-door sales. It was awesome. At that point in time, it was like the job was after my life, because I was waking up by 6, coming back by 9, and honestly, at that point in time, it wasn't looking like I was ever going to make it to where I had dreamt about and all the good things I had thought about for myself. I was working under the sun. I was literally hawking. They said sales representative. And shout out to those employers that have good names for jobs, and at the end of the day what you do in the job is is
It's a
unheard of.
whole
So
lot
yeah,
different from what they said.
it's
Like,
a whole lot
yeah,
different.
it's a
So
whole.
you see some job roles and job titles, and the money is nowhere. So yeah, I was in that dilemma too. So and it was just crazy. We were trekking under the sun, hawking, selling in Central Market. For those of you who would be listening to this, I know Central Markets in Kaduna. So yeah, I
Yeah.
did all of that, and it was just it was something else. But something was happening, and this is what process does to you. It furnishes you with the right tools. It furnishes you with the right set of skills you need in the next phase of your life. So because it's not where you need it, you are not currently where you need it, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So that is why we must, and thank God for what you're doing, we must make a generation understand, because social media has painted results as something that is lucrative, which is good, something that is easy, which is good, but we must also try to begin to build a different kind of mindset that helps the youths embrace, love, and actually take process for what it is. And that is only going to happen if they understand the benefit of the process. Because I also feel like if I had embraced, or probably maybe listened to this podcast, if you had done it maybe in 2019 and understood how much process is important, I would have probably learned more than I learned. I would have probably maybe picked up more skills than I picked up. I would have probably embraced a lot of things, understanding fully that it might not count at that phase of my life, but someday it was going to count.
Yes.
So, but I did my best with the little knowledge I had, and I moved on from that place. But one thing that has sort of like made me stand out amongst my peers on this route to becoming one of the best sales fellow or individual the world will ever know is you can't actually teach that on ground sales skill also like other professionals. So it was like the practical aspect of what I was going to be diving into in the future. And if you listen to people who maybe studied from whatever institution they studied from without having this hands-on knowledge, you would see that there's a clear difference. There's a different level of resilience and doggedness in maybe how we operate, how we go after things, and the continuous pursuit of results. So that was part of the things that phase did for me. And in the next phase I went into, it just sort of like made me stand out amongst other people. So if we don't help people understand how important process is, I could have easily thrown away that phase and not have the requisite skills to become important in the next phase of my life. We must also make people understand that hard is not necessarily bad. Because we are in a generation where if it is hard, then maybe